I've mentioned this before. Earth is amid abrupt, irreversible climate change, as concluded by the Designed to Fail Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, with 2 reports issued more than 5 years ago. I've also mentioned this before. As the climate crisis worsens, we will see more droughts, more rainfall, and more floods. This video provides additional evidence for increased aridity, increased rainfall, and increased flooding. I'll start with the stunning aridity in the American West. This is happening even without rainfall deficits, according to a peer-reviewed paper in the renowned Science series. Specifically, the paper was published November 6, 2024 in Science Advances. Here's the summary at Science Daily, also published November 6, 2024. Quote, higher temperatures caused by anthropogenic climate change turned an ordinary drought into an exceptional one that parched the American West from 2020 to 2022. A study has found that evaporation accounted for 61% of the drought's severity, while reduced precipitation accounted for 39%. The research found that since 2000, evaporative demand has played a bigger role than reduced precipitation in droughts, which may become more severe as the climate warms. End quote. Here's the first paragraph. Quote, higher temperatures caused by anthropogenic climate change made an ordinary drought into an exceptional drought that parched the American West from 2020 to 2022. A study by UCLA and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration climate scientists has found that evaporation accounted for 61% of the drought's severity, while reduced precipitation only accounted for 39%. The research found that evaporative demand has played a bigger role than reduced precipitation in droughts since 2000, which suggests droughts will become more severe as the climate warms. End quote. A professor at UCLA is the corresponding author for the peer-reviewed paper. He is quoted in the Science Daily paper. Quote, research has already shown that warmer temperatures contribute to drought, but this is, to our knowledge, the first study that actually shows that moisture loss due to demand is greater than the moisture loss due to lack of rainfall. End quote. The paper in Science Daily explains, quote, historically, drought in the West has been caused by lack of precipitation, and evaporative demand has played a small role. Climate change caused by the burning of fossil fuels has resulted in higher average temperatures that complicate this picture. While drought induced by natural fluctuations in rainfall still exist, there's more heat to suck moisture from bodies of water, plants, and soil. End quote. A co-author and executive director of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's National Integrated Drought Information System explains, quote, for generations, drought has been associated with drier than normal weather. This study further confirms we've entered a new paradigm where rising temperatures are leading to intense droughts with precipitation as a secondary factor. End quote. In other words, lack of precipitation is not the primary driver for this drought. Rather, the drought is underlain by rising temperatures. Temperatures will continue to rise for the foreseeable future, indicating that devastating droughts will continue. The overview at Science Daily concludes with 3 key takeaways. 1. Higher temperatures caused by anthropogenic climate change turned an ordinary drought into an exceptional one that parched the American West from 2020 to 2022. 2. A study by UCLA and NOAA scientists has found that evaporation accounted for 61% of the drought's severity, while reduced precipitation accounted for 39%. And 3. The research found that since 2000, evaporative demand has played a bigger role than reduced precipitation in droughts, which may become more severe as the climate warms. End quote. Quote, may become more severe as the climate warms? End quote. Really? First, there is no indication that the climate will start cooling anytime soon. Second, I think the writer meant might become more severe rather than may become more severe. I am incorrect only if the writer is granting permission instead of pointing out what might occur. Next up is an article in The Guardian from November 2nd, 2024. The article is headlined, Spain's apocalyptic floods show 2 undeniable truths. The climate crisis is getting worse, and big oil is killing us. The first 4 paragraphs provide an overview of the climate crisis and the standard human response. Quote, move on, nothing to see here, just another ordinary, everyday apocalypse. If past experience is any guide, the world's reaction to the floods in Spain last week will be similar to that of motorway drivers at a crash scene. Slow down, take in the horror, outwardly express sympathy, inwardly give a thanks that fate picked someone else, and foot on the accelerator. That is the pattern in our climate-disrupted era when extreme weather catastrophes have become so commonplace that they risk being normalized. Instead of outrage and determination to reduce the dangers, there is an insidious sense of complacency. These things happen. Someone else is responsible. Someone else will fix it. Nothing could be further from the truth. The unnatural disaster in Spain, Europe's deadliest flash floods in at least half a century, is evidence of two undeniable truths. The human-caused climate crisis is just starting to pick up ferocity, and we need to quickly kill the fossil fuel industry before it kills us." End quote. Again, there is no acknowledgement of the aerosol masking effect. Rather, quote, "we need to quickly kill the fossil fuel industry before it kills us." End quote. I'm not a fan of murder as a solution, and it simply makes no sense to believe we can kill an entire industry, much less one as powerful as the fossil fuel industry. Even if I were a fan of murder, I doubt I'd start by ignoring a critical element of our ongoing crisis. In addition, there is the notion that, quote, "the human-caused climate crisis is just starting to pick up ferocity," end quote. Earth is amid the most abrupt event in planetary history, as reported by the IPCC more than 6 years ago in its climate warming of 1.5 degrees. Quote, "These global-level rates of human-driven change far exceed the rates of change driven by geophysical or biosphere forces in the past. Even abrupt geophysical events do not approach current rates of human-driven change." End quote. In other words, there are no human actions that will stop or slow abrupt, irreversible climate change. We are destined to experience abrupt, irreversible climate change until the ongoing mass extinction event causes our inevitable extinction. As I have reported previously in this space, we will then join at least 8 previous species in the genus Homo in going extinct. This time is different primarily in the rate of environmental change, which will be sufficient to cause the extinction of all life on Earth in our wake. Finally, I turn to another article in The Guardian, titled, "People Do Not Want to Believe It Is True, the Photographer Capturing the Vanishing of Glaciers." The article was published on November 5th, 2024. Here's the subhead, quote, "Christian Asland was shocked at the difference between what he saw in 2002 and what confronted him this summer," end quote. The opening paragraph tells a story with which we are all familiar. Quote, "Standing in blinding sunlight on an archipelago above the Arctic Circle, the photographer Christian Asland looked in shock at a glacier he had last visited in 2002. It had almost completely disappeared," end quote. The article in The Guardian includes abundant evidence, including photographs, of Earth's recent warming. The photographer featured in the article repeatedly expresses his sadness at the ongoing series of events. This is easy to understand for those of us interested in life on Earth. The final paragraph has the photographer pleading for action. Quote, "Asland hopes that his images will help spur people and governments into action, and humanity tackles the climate crisis before all glaciers are lost." End quote. The final 2 sentences of this latter article in The Guardian have the photographer making a wish. Quote, "I hope this photo series will be published as a reminder of what is going on, and then I will go back, maybe in 20 years' time, to see the difference from now, and hopefully it won't be as bad." End quote. I'd love to believe we have 20 years, quote, "to see the difference from now. At this point, I'd be pleased with 10 years. Perhaps the peer-reviewed literature I've quoted ad nauseum is wrong.